Thank you for joining us live on the program. We are live for you in French and in English from our studios here in Pointe-Noire, the Republic of Congo. Now, Nigeria's leader, Muhammadu Buhari, has been declared winner of the country's presidential election. Mr. Buhari scored the highest votes, polling over 15 million. His closest challenger and main opposition party's candidate, Atiku Abubakar, polled over 11 million votes. Mr. Abubakar's People's Democratic Party, PDP, has called the count incorrect and unacceptable, alleging irregularities. Now, despite widespread criticism that he had not delivered enough on his promises to fight corruption and insecurity and also to strengthen the economy, Buhari, Nigeria's president, seems to have actually won this election rather easily.
Indeed, Jerry, during his first term in office, Muhammadu Buhari did not fulfill any of his campaign promises. He has reaffirmed this in this second mandate priorities, including the defeat of Boko Haram and tackling corruption for this second term. In addition to security and corruption issues, he promised to revive the country's economy, improve education and employment by creating 15 million jobs in the country.
Indeed, but we will bring you reactions. In fact, to be very factual about it, his declaration was just done some hours ago, but we will bring you reactions from Nigeria when we connect with our correspondents in the country. But moving on now to Sudan, Western powers, including the United States, Britain and France, have condemned the latest measures by the government to clamp down on protesters. U.S. Acting Ambassador to the United Nations, Jonathan Cohen, urged Khartoum to respect the rights of all individuals in Sudan and, quote-unquote, bring an immediate end to the violent repression of peaceful protests.
In an attempt to calm movements which began since mid-December, the Sudanese president declared a state of emergency for 1 year and the dissolution of the government, except that it didn't calm the demonstrators who are calling for his resignation. The government has therefore toughened its stance and decided to ban strikes and rallies. It also bans the publication or exchange, including on social media, of information that damages the state or citizens. Those who violate these provisions will face up to 10 years in prison.
Now is Ahmed El-Zobia, a researcher for Amnesty International. Ahmed, thank you very much for joining us on the program. There have been reactions from around the world to a situation that's been seen to be deteriorating, especially since a state of emergency was declared on Friday in Sudan. How does this instigate your main concerns in the country?
So our main concern is like the intensity of human rights violations at the moment in Sudan. And this is also, we documented that before the declaration of state of emergency on the 22nd of February. And also continue after that. So this declaration is just like, proving that the government of Sudan will do anything to maintain political power by any means necessary. So if you read the text of decrees that issued by the president yesterday, they're quite disturbing because of heavy restrictions of public gathering, heavy restrictions on use of social media, prohibition of many things that regular Sudanese do, even movement of people traveling from one location to another.
President Bashir has placed a ban on illegal protests. Do you think this can bring an end to the protests in the country?
Est-ce que vous pensez que cela peut mettre fin à ce mouvement de protestation?
Our point of view, I think we look at it from the perspective of human rights violations. It's going to make the situation worse. In terms of politics, it's going to make the situation worse because I think the opposition rejected all these new measures, especially the state of emergency. So I don't see any political solution because ultimately this is a political crisis. So they need to find a solution for that. But our key concern is like, these heavy restrictions on, ordinary Sudanese people, their daily life. And interference, a lot of power given to the security forces, and we know they are committed human rights violations in the past, and I think they will continue to do so. We are really concerned about this issues of beating of the protesters in the street, and also we documented few cases of beating in the protesters inside the detention centers. And it's just a vicious kind of circle.
Ahmed, let me ask you, are there solutions that can end this human rights crisis in Sudan?
Our first priority, because that's the beginning of the protest, government started to use lethal force against the protesters. So we said to them, stop using excessive force against protesters. Second one is to immediately release all those arbitrarily detained by the security forces in Sudan. And I think our numbers show that, the government numbers show that they arrested over 2,600. And also, we call for the world to conduct investigation, especially in the incidents of unlawful killings. Our records show that over 45 people were killed during the protests since December last year. So these are concerning issues for us. I think for the case of emergency, this is some governments in the region and so and others, they use it as a pretext to even to increase their control of the population.
Well, Ahmed, this is where we would have to leave it at, but I'd like to thank you very much for your insights. Thank you very much for speaking with us. Ahmed El-Zobia, researcher for Sudan with Amnesty International, speaking to us there from Nairobi, Kenya.
On passe maintenant au journal de l'Afrique
Time
avec
for
le Sénégal,
other stories
l'Algérie
making
et
news
l'Égypte.
in the continent.